today for you all is a demonstration of what we would do at an accident scene if we have patients trapped in a vehicle due to any kind of auto accident. So you're going to see different tools today like cutters. We'll be able to cut the doors off the vehicle, spreaders, or many of you might know them as jaws of life. So you'll see those in action live. We're going to actually cut all 4 of the doors off this vehicle. We'll also cut the roof off the vehicle as well. So I'll be walking you through it as our team here is starting the demo, and yeah, we'll get started here. So there's a couple different ways that we can actually start this process. If we have close proximity to the vehicle, we'll typically use our heavy rescue, Rescue 5, over to your right side. That does have hydraulic pumps that are built into the truck and allows us to stretch hoses out and work from those hoses. If we are far off, or maybe there's a patient that's far off the side of the road and those hoses don't reach, we'll use a mobile pump, which they're starting on the other side of the vehicle. So what you're going to see first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to stabilize the vehicle. It's very important to make sure that if there's an injured patient in the vehicle that we don't injure them further as we're trying to help them. So in this case, we would normally chalk the vehicle with the chalks that you see. We call those step chalks. And then from there, we would actually intentionally pop the tires. And that's to allow us to stabilize the vehicle and lower it down on those chalks. Once the vehicle is stabilized, you'll see one of our firefighters is inside. And what we do is we make sure that the patient is stabilized, but we also cover the patient as well to make sure as we go through this process, they're not going to get covered with glass. And while we're doing this, we're keeping them calm, and we're also making sure that we're telling them what's going on. Of course, if you can't see during this process, it can be scary for the patient, so we want to make sure they know what we're doing next. So you'll see here, Patrick is going ahead and making what we call a purchase point in the window, and he's also going to start knocking out some of these windows in the vehicle. This tool here is basically working like a drill, but it allows us to saw through the window. And you can see as we knock these windows out, the patient's now covered, so they're not getting glass. So Zimmerman here, he's got those jaws, and what he's doing now is making what we call a purchase point. And you'll see that as he spreads that window open, it actually creates a gap in the side of the door. And what that allows us to do is take the spreaders, put them into that gap, and we can actually pop the door jamb and get the door open in the case that we can't get it open with the handle. So while this is going on, we make sure that we keep somebody, one of our firefighters in the vehicle, as I said, stabilizing the patient, talking to them, keeping them calm, and also checking their vitals and things like that as we go. Making sure that the patient's condition isn't worsening as we're going through the process. Another thing that we'll commonly do is get set up for our next step, which will be cutters once we get that door popped. So now you can see how quickly we were able to actually separate that locking mechanism on your door. And from there, that gives us access to both your upper and lower hinges so that we can actually get in there and cut those hinges and separate the door completely from the vehicle. Now, it is important to note that one of the first steps we would typically do in this situation, which we didn't show in this demonstration, is we would open up the hood and we would cut power to the vehicle. That's very important because we might have sparks, we could have fuel leaking from the vehicle, and also we're going to be potentially cutting through some wires and different things like that. So we always make sure that the power to the vehicle is disabled. So they've now cut through that top hinge. And in just a few seconds, you'll see that that bottom hinge will be loose and that door can be completely removed from the vehicle. So you'll hear another pop here in just a minute. That will be the lower hinge that's being separated from the vehicle. As you can all imagine, it's very important that we make sure everybody has all their safety gear on. As you can see, we get a lot of debris and glass and things like that going. As I mentioned, it's important to have the electric shut down on the vehicle, because now the last thing holding that door to the vehicle is the wiring that goes in for the door electrical arm. What do we think? Good job, everybody, so far? How about a round of applause for these people? So same thing here, we're going to go to the rear door now. We're going to create that purchase point. That'll give us access to the hinge, so you'll see this process repeated a couple times. So in different scenarios, it's also important that we have different techniques that we can use to access the patient. In certain cases where maybe there's a head-on collision, for example, the dashboard could be rolled down or pushed down lower on someone's legs, for example. So we can also use a multitude of different tools throughout our Rescue 5 that we can use to expand that dashboard or roll a dash. We can use these same tools here to cut the hood and get a purchase point on the hood. So it's used in a lot of different applications throughout a rescue like this. So again, that first pop that you heard was the top hinge. And we always cut the top hinge first because we want to let the door use gravity to let that door sag and touch down to the ground, so our firefighters don't have to hold that up and maintain all that weight during the extrication. As you can imagine, a day like today, it gets extremely hot for our firefighters when we're doing an extrication or any other fire calls or duties. So we try to use work smarter, not harder in these cases. Now we have 2 of the 4 doors already removed. We're going to cut the hinges on the other side right now. And once all those are removed, we're going to go ahead and start making our different cuts on what we call pillars of the car. We'll make cuts here, make another one here, and do the same on the other side. And that allows us to take the roof right off the vehicle to more easily get the patient out. As you can imagine, the next step once we get this patient out of the vehicle is, of course, to get them to further medical aid. So we'll always have an ambulance on standby at the scene. Depending on how many injuries there are, we may have more than 1 ambulance. And depending on the severity of the patient's condition, we might actually have mercy flights, or the helicopter, landed and staged off to the side in a safe location so that we can get them to the hospital even faster. Another thing the person that's operating our cutters needs to be aware of is, of course, airbags. For those of us who are adults here watching, we know that there's airbags everywhere in these vehicles now. Side curtain airbags, front impact airbags, so they're spread out all throughout the vehicle, and we have to be very cautious of where we're cutting, as there's actual gas canisters sometimes hidden in our posts. So there could be gas canisters hidden up here to deploy airbags. They could be here, sometimes lower as well. So we have to take a really careful look and assess the situation and watch where we're cutting in different positions. So another thing that person that's operating our cutters needs to be aware of is, of course, airbags. For those of us who are adults here watching, we know that there's airbags everywhere in these vehicles now. Side curtain airbags, front impact airbags, so there's actual gas canisters sometimes hidden in our posts. So there could be gas canisters sometimes hidden up here to deploy airbags. We have to take a really careful look and assess the situation and watch where we're cutting in different positions. last hinge now that we're taking off the vehicle, and then we'll start to cut our post. Now sometimes these tools can be a bit cumbersome to work with, as you can imagine. These tools, each one of them can weigh approximately 50, maybe 55 pounds. They can be a little bit difficult to work with. In some situations, there's other tools that we can use as well, such as reciprocating saws or sawzalls that we can use to cut through these posts. So it allows us to work with more than one tool in a few different scenarios to make sure that we're able to get the patient out of the vehicle as fast as possible. Just a few seconds there, we're already through 2 out of 6 of the posts that we have to cut through. And we're going on to number 3 now. So cut 3 is complete, working on number 4. So what you just saw our Captain Eddie Schmidt doing is he was actually cutting the seatbelt at this point to make sure that now we're at the stage that we're going to get ready to take the patient out of the vehicle. That the seatbelt is cut, removed away from them so we can easily get them out without being tangled up. It's also important, again, that as we're making these cuts, we don't want to have a seatbelt caught in between the jaws and have it moving the patient around in the vehicle. Just one more pillar and then the roof will actually come off the vehicle. Okay, our roof is officially free. How about a round of applause for these firefighters? Now we've got a beautiful convertible for sale. We'll use this for the fundraiser. No, but really this gives us really good access now to the patient. It allows us to manipulate the patient, to keep their head steady, to keep their back nice and straight, to further avoid any additional injury to the patient. So the final step you'll see here is we're going to extricate the patient from the vehicle using a backboard. You'll see now that we've taken the tarp off because the hazards to the patient as the firefighters are working around him or her are now gone. And everybody at this point is really working as a team. We're making sure that we're counting, we're making sure that one person isn't lifting before the other, because again, it can be critical to the patient patient's outcome as to how we're working through this process. And our patient's been rescued. So thank you for everybody that did the demonstration. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions after, please feel free to walk up to any one of us, ask some questions. We'll put some of the tools over there as well so you can see what those look like up close. Thank you.